JNU from outside looks very different than from inside. Because for outside, what the imagination of JNU is that it participates, as you said, in 2012 protests against that that rape that took place, which shook the society, and it also raises issues on numerous gender insensitive activities which take place around the world, or especially in the country. But it's not that rosy from inside, because it has been, if I were to talk as a queer activist, since the time, it has been my 6 years in this campus, it's my 6th year, and from the day I came till now, it's very different. It's very different because when I came, yes, that image was there, and I could feel that I could feel that there's so much of freedom and liberal energy here, but there was hardly anybody who talked about queer issues. There was no conversation, and I'm talking about when I came in this campus for my masters 6 years back. And at that time, because I was coming from a small town, I thought for me it was that there's nobody apart from me is queer. I didn't even know there is a word called queer, okay, or even a word called gay. Or the only reference to gay would come from television, where it was highly stereotyped. So when I came to JNU, I did not have that kind of expectation that it would solve all my issues and problem. I was very secretive, very introvert about my identity, did not share it with anybody. Although, if you talk about the legacy and the history and whatever JNU claims, before, like since 2003, there used to be a queer rights group in JNU called Anjuman, right? I came in 2009. It's said that the queer rights group died out in 2007.
What was the name of it?
Anjuman. Anjuman means garden. So there was this queer rights group which was active, which now I hear about. I could not hear anything, because if it were active for me, when I came, there would have been, and if the politics in this campus was that sensitive and talking about it, and if this group had done something, it would have been in the memory of the politicians. Right? There would have been references about.
It was there only on paper.
It was all they had. If what I remember or what I hear from people who were part of Anjuman, they tell me they organized the time when Fire was released. Fire was this movie. Deepa Mehta. Yeah. So there was huge controversy around it. So Anjuman had screened this movie in this campus, and there was huge response to it, very positive response to it. This is what I've heard, and these are the stories how they tried to, but it collapsed because of there were fears that people did not want to come out, people did not want people to know about them, and all those issues which any queer group would struggle with, like whether we just want a safe space for ourselves, and let's just be cozy and comfortable with ourselves, because we know outside world is very difficult to handle. So you would be bullied, you would be tormented, tortured, and traumatized. So, but when I came here, and now when I hear about Anjuman, now I feel that I could not hear anything about queer rights anywhere. There was not even mention in any manifesto, anything. Because in 2008, I came in 2009, but I also took admission in 2008, and that was the year when the JNUSU elections were stalled, and the nominations were filed, and just before the elections, it was stalled, so elections could not take place. Next year when I came in 2009, there was nothing, no reference to it. The only thing was Sandeep Singh was continuing to be the president for successive 3 years. So, but then, even though we were talking about all these issues, there was nothing. So what I felt was, when does JNU speak? JNU speaks when he thinks that something which is happening outside, it can talk about. For instance, when the rape case happened, it was a case which affected a lot of people. So for that period, what I understood, gender issues for them were women issues. and very important. I don't say it's irrelevant. It's very important because they were raising issues on, say, Dalit women. They were raising issues on rapes and cops and all these things which were happening. But I thought it was a very lopsided understanding of what gender is, because you're not targeting the real enemy of the way the masculinity and femininity is being constructed and things are happening, but you're just picking up events and just fighting and struggling without any results.
It's the same way that the state puts the laws about rape, and it's only gender. It's for women.
So the easiest way to actually deal with any kind of a social political movement would would be that just isolate them, separate them, and then target.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Hey, Serena.
On these two ghetto spaces where you can talk about queer things and queer issues and gay people and lesbian women, and everything would be fine. Nobody's going to object. What's happening is, right now, I don't see any progress that has taken place even in JNU in terms of queer rights, except the fact that what we have achieved is a discourse. We have started having a dialogue. People have started talking about it, which is what I was mentioning earlier, was absent when I came to this campus.
Right. So it's first step.
It's a first step. The only, and I because I've worked closely with it, I feel a sense of hypocrisy involved, because now what has become is talking about queer rights has become a sense of very progressive politics. So like, I want to sound progressive, so I will talk about gays and lesbians and bisexuals and their rights, but I do not understand anything about them.
It's a kind of promotional label that you.
So it's like, I want to sound progressive, so I will talk about it. So until people say, what, you don't support it? And you're in social sciences and you call yourself left progressive.
So mainstream.
Yes, right. That is what has happened. So now talking about queer has become mainstream. Like
it's the case from in all the country.
Yeah. So the thing is,
but this is good. This is already,
This is what she said. It's the first step. You're starting off.
Yeah, but depending on the way you are doing it, because there is different ways. Like you say, for women's rights. Depending for women's work, for example, if you speak about equality, or if you speak about safety, or if you speak about linked to motherhood or linked to women's rights as a human being, there is all the time different side.
The first time I ever heard of gay rights in this campus was in the GS election where Ruchira Sen contested. It was after all its stalling. Once for the first time we were having GS elections, and that year when Shweta Raj and Ruchira Sen won.
Okay.
So that what happened was
Ruchira was the SFI candidate?
SFI candidate, yes, at that time. After which she became DSF vice presidential candidate.
Okay.
So what happened was they had organized this meeting where they were discussing the manifesto. And interestingly, I happened to be present there, because my friends were there in my class because I was very new to this place, and there were classmates who were working with the group, and they said, okay, oh come, we are discussing something, give their suggestions and all this. Nobody knew about my sexuality till then. So I was sitting there, and Ruchira was very vehement about, I want to talk about gay rights, I want to talk about the lesbian rights, and we need to have a survey done in this campus. And there was a survey done which was later taken back because it was highly controversial on certain levels.
Was it Ardra initiative or this survey, the Ardra?
It was Ruchira's initiative.
Okay.
Ruchira, everybody was together at that time, right?
Okay.
So it was actually Ruchira said, okay, let's have this survey. So
Okay.
it was one of the agenda, they were discussing in the agenda, and I was sitting there just silently. I didn't know what to say. I was very introvert and silent. Okay. And then once she talks about gay rights, and what I hear was an objection coming from one corner. Like, why are you talking about all these? These are unnatural things, and how can we talk about these things? And this is preparation for the GS elections.
It was a public meeting, or it was this kind of
close.
Okay.
So very close. And that was very first time, and like I said, okay, and what if they knew that I was gay? But later on, because it was just one person, and then I realized the problem what the campus was facing was that most of these students who probably the one who spoke up and said, who had the courage to speak up and say that please don't talk about these rights. There are lot many like them in the campus, but they would never speak up because they want to sound progressive, right? They have problems with what you're talking about, gay things. They have problem with how can you talk about anal sex or this unnatural activity or whatever. So they want to talk about it, and they would reserve themselves from talking about it. This fellow at least spoke about it and said, yeah, I have a problem about it, which then we could solve. We could engage him into a dialogue and convince him and try to tell him that why did he feel that it was unnatural. And this is what the problem with JNU is, because unlike say Delhi University or unlike Ambedkar University for the matter of fact, the student community in JNU is coming from extremely diverse backgrounds, from remote parts of the country. The way JNU's admission policy has been, it caters to bringing in people from remote areas, from different backgrounds, different caste backgrounds, different class backgrounds. So when you come from say a small town or small village in Bihar, like where you had never heard about gay issue, right? Even for me being a gay, I never heard of somebody other than me who was gay in my town. I can understand that when they come here, they come with all those prejudices as a hangover, right? And because we are not having a dialogue with them, we are not telling them that ignorance continues.
And so you would say that the debate about queer rights and gay and lesbian rights is more articulated in Delhi University because people are coming from a different background, or it's the opposite. It's more remote. It's more because it's a middle class. So.
Yes. The one thing about Delhi University is that, and I would talk about from the Delhi University Queer Collective, which is almost dying right now.
You are speaking about the gender studies
No, not the gender studies group. There was the DU Queer Collective also. Now, DU Queer Collective came up in existence after the Supreme Court verdict came about, which was the 11 December 2013 verdict. And first ever face that they showed was on 11th January 2014. They had a protest outside Faculty of Arts in Delhi University, North Campus, where they had called people from different areas, lawyers, teachers, students who were sharing poetry, life experiences, different groups coming in. This is the first ever event with DU Queer Collective did. After which they also did a parents relatives meet, where they called this person called Deepak Kashyap, which is a psychologist from Mumbai. He's a counselor from Mumbai. They called him up. And what they did was, they organized a small meeting at Max Muller Bhavan with the parents and relatives of people who are queer or friends who you're out to. So you could bring in whatever their problems and whatever issues they are, and which is very relevant in the case of Delhi University, because Delhi University is an open spread out campus. It's not a closed campus like JNU or a closed campus like Ambedkar University. So therefore, most of the students who are studying in Delhi University happen to be day scholars, who might be staying with families, right? So if you're queer and you're staying with family, where home becomes a very unwelcoming space if you are not adhering to the normative gender role that you have been assigned to, and how familiarity becomes such a threatening thing for your existence. So it was very relevant in that case that they organized something like this. Right now, what they're facing is well, yeah.
Give it to me. Continue on listening,
Yeah. So this is what I think Delhi University's issue is. One, because it's too spread out, they cannot have a support system like that. Because what we have understood so far, the kind of politics which is run in Delhi University is very right wing. Right now, ABVP is in power in the Students' Union elections. So you cannot even imagine they would ever speak out these issues. Now, who will speak them? Even in campus like JNU, who started speaking about it, right? So at the end of the day, somebody will have to take initiative. And why would somebody take initiative unless it directly affects him or her as a, right? So there were people, students who are queer, who thought that we should talk about these issues, and they started talking about it. So but then because it's spread out, and then people have individual commitments, and they cannot have a support system like that, where they can share their experiences, meet regularly. They cannot have a successful queer group. And also because it's so many different colleges, how can you coordinate and have it, right? So therefore, we don't hear so much on queer rights coming from Delhi University.
No, it's very difficult for them. I had a meeting with Approach. I had a meeting
the
with
new
him,
gender studies
this week, and he told me like we wanted to create a group, a queer group, but it's impossible in the EU because even the gender studies group, last time I went, there were like 4.
Yeah,
because people are like, oh yeah, it's interesting, but they never come, and it's very difficult to
also
involve
because
people.
they do not also like, unlike JNU or AUD, where you easily get spaces to have your meetings and events, they do not.
No, and even like you say, there is a lot of people who come from out of the EU. There is no this like JNU, this kind
This
of
closed
groups and-
residential area.
This kind of campus, in fact. And it's very, even for me, it's quite far first. And you know, all people are living in Delhi, and they organize that Saturday morning. So of course, there's a lot of people.
But there are the very interesting things in Delhi University. Like for instance, have you met Vikramaditya Sahai? Vikramaditya Sahai.
It's V-I
K-R-A-M. Aditya Sahai. He writes his name on Facebook as Vikwiram.
Oh yes.
You have to meet the man who wears sari.
Oh no, I know him. I had a conference with him. He's a teacher in IUD now.
Yeah, he's a teacher in IUD.
Yeah, I know him. He was invited for some UN conference for all this thing. Kind of empowerment. Yeah, I know him.
Because he shares very interesting experiences being part of TU. Like one of the things that he was sharing in one of those events was that he has been studying in Faculty of Arts Political Science Department, and he has also taught there as ad hoc. And one day he decides to go there, enter in a sari, and he stopped at the gate. You cannot enter. So how?
Have you seen this Lawrence Anyway, the movie?
No, I have not.
It's the same. It's really similar issue. It's
Lawrence Anyway. It's by Dolan.
Yeah, Xavier Dolan. He's a guy who decided to change clothes and become a woman. And
but
his
his
teacher.
Sexualities. This is very interesting.
Yes.
He's still with his wife, and he loves her, but he wants to dress and be a woman.
This is what Parmesh Sahan. I went to Mumbai recently for a lesbian and gay and youth young leaders summit, and there was this one person who's out and is working in a very high position in Godrej Industries. He has written this book called Gay Bombay. Okay, so he was telling about his experiences when he was studying in Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and one of his faculty who was married, he was heterosexual and married, and he used to cross-dress and walk together with his wife in the campus, and it was so like encouraging and like to see something like that happening.
Wow.
Which you never see in this campus, despite we know that a lot of queer faculties here would never speak up.
And you say you are apart from Danak, is
Yeah.
this? Yeah, so it's how it is it the formal organization?
No.
No.
It's a group. So what happened one fine day, the few of us met and decided we need to have a support system, a closed, safe support space where we can talk about the issues, because a lot of us were facing relationship crisis which you could not share to other people. Like for instance, me, if I have a boyfriend and I'm having bad time with it, and if I'm falling in love with somebody in my class, but I cannot share it with my friends because they do not know about my sexuality, they would get threatened by my presence otherwise. So whom should I confide in then? Whom should I share my feelings with? So what we decided was we'll have this small group where we can talk about if you're facing bullies, if you're facing difficulties in academics, if you are facing difficulties in your families, we can share. Like for instance, I have not been visited my home for almost a year now, because every time I go home, the first thing that comes into my mind is marriage, and I can't even tell them about that. I cannot, because the reason they will not understand. They do not have that language to understand. So which I feel like a person who is born in a bigger city might have that privilege over a smaller town guy. It's probably here the dialogue is happening. People know what gay is, what lesbian is. If I go and tell to my parents that I am gay, they would not even understand what am I talking about.
So GNU has created a language, not created, has spread out a language that makes these things of being queer, being lesbian, being gay acceptable and understood by people.
No, I think it comes from outside rather than
Or like
Jane is trying to shape its politics along adding that thing with it.
So would you say that the queer movement was born within organizational boundaries, or it was a outside thing?
It was outside and it was adopted.
That was adopted. And that it was forcefully it was kind of debate within the organization.
The only thing that was the first time I ever heard was in a small SFI gathering. The first time people were actually started discussing about this into their manifesto. Later on, what we found was everybody in every person was contesting what GSK started talking about it. All of a sudden, without probably even understanding what queer rights were. Right. This is why we had to organize last year this event called Talk to Me. Just before the GSK selection, we came up with this event called Talk to Me, where we invited all these contestants who were contesting for the post of Gender Sensitizing Committee Against Sexual Harassment to come to us, because everybody was talking very progressive. Everybody was saying we want gay rights, we want lesbian rights, but what do you understand by it? What exactly are you going to do? Right.
And what do you understand by queer when you speak about queer? Because there is difference.
Yes, there's this huge difference when we use because we call our group as a queer group rather than a gay group or a lesbian group. Because by moment you talk about gay or lesbian, you're actually again trying to bracket and compartmentalize identities, which our imagination is queer because it itself is so fluid, and you cannot just say that even only gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender are queer. There's this n number of spectrum which comprises queer. So how can I say this is only gay is queer? So for us, queer is this larger umbrella term that gives you that freedom that you can accept yourself whatever you are and you are part of us. So even if you are heterosexual, you are part of the term the queer group, because you believe in the idea that heteronormativity is bad. That heterosexism and heteronormativity and heteropatriarchy is at the root of the kind of discriminations and differentiation we all are facing in our daily lives, be it man, women, gay, lesbian, whatever.
Yeah, so you understand in the same way than Butler was speaking about performativity of the gender and how. Okay, so in Danak, is there some lesbian too?
Yes, we have.
So it's open to everybody. Okay. And in reality, is there some lesbian?
yeah, there are.
No, because I asked you this question.
You want to meet one? You want to meet one?
Yeah, I asked this question because I met someone from Stafford for Equality during a conference, and I met someone from a lesbian organization in Delhi. Now they stopped work because they didn't receive enough funds to continue to help people. And I had this impression like there is a lot of group for gay.
Yeah,
but there is this problem with lesbian. So a big part of the activists who are lesbian, they are first feminists, activists in a women organization or feminist organization.
Then they talk about you.
And after they try to put inside the movement like sexualities, but they don't speak only about lesbians. They speak about LGBT. In fact, and I have this impression like LGBT is linked with feminism in this country, in a lot of countries, and the only space
you cannot segregate queer movement and feminist movement.
Yeah, but in USA it's totally different. You can be queer and not feminist, and you can be feminist and not queer.
Which is even in India, where there are a lot of people who call themselves gay and they would still support right-wing mentality. and they would go and cast vote for Modi.
Yeah, that's
You can be gay and totally stupid.
Yeah.
You can be
There are-
hetero
there are
and you can
lot
be
of-
totally
yeah.
stupid.
There are a lot of French
Everybody is
politicians.
stupid.
There are a lot of French politicians. They are gay and.
I think the stupidity
Right.
is the universal.
It's not linked to a gender or race.
But would you say though that GSK has helped to promote this
Yes,
these debates?
to a certain degree, and lately yes, because we now here, because the group has been very active, it keeps on organizing things and has meetings, or this was the first meeting that we ever had was Meri Awaaz Suno, which was Listen to Me, where soon after the verdict came out, there was this interesting, as I said, Dhanak started off as a very safe, closed group. We never had an intention for that people would ever know about us. We didn't want people
But it
to
was
know.
completely secret.
It was completely secret.
Wow.
Why?
It was completely secret because initially when we started off, there were only queers and biologically accepting queer people who were like gay, lesbian, bisexual, who identified themselves as that, who were part of it, who were not very sure whether they wanted people to know about their sexuality. So what we wanted was to create a safe space for them or for us. So we wanted to be very close. We wanted to be connected with each other because you heard of issues where a girl was a lesbian girl was a complaint went against a lesbian girl by a roommate to the hostel warden saying that, oh, please change my roommate because I feel she will pounce on me because she's lesbian and things like that. And even if you would heard Gaurav must have shared when he was in PaRChA, he actually walked naked in the corridor.
No, I
Something like
didn't
that.
say that story.
Yes, there were a lot of things that. So what we wanted was a secret space. Now, what happened was, as the verdict came about, we faced a
Did you
lot.
speak about 377?
Yes, 377. Till then, we wanted that we wanted a safe space. We would talk about issues. We would talk about support, educate ourselves about what is happening around the world and what. So that we are updated about it, because even in this campus nobody was talking about queer rights. So there was no point that we come up and stand out and say, because we all had our own set of fears. We didn't want our fellow friends to know, colleagues to know, not the faculty members, because we knew we would be branded and then we would be discriminated on the basis of our sexuality. So we didn't want any of those things. So we started up as a secret space. Then the verdict comes about, and then what we do, the first thing is we gather together and we make posters. We make very kinds of posters where we have people standing behind bars and there are pictures, and we put it around Baba Ramdev saying that I can cure homosexuality, and we do it all over the campus because
It was kind of spontaneous, no? It
it
was
was
kind
very
of
spontaneous. It was spontaneous because we didn't feel that kind of wave that could have emerged, because when you talk about the 2012 case, which was a huge wave, and even when the outside world sees JNU came forward and JNU took up the protest, we didn't see anything like that happening. JNU SU organized a public meeting almost after a month of that incident, of that verdict, in Godavari mess, which was attended by very few people. There were queer people. There were some people from ISA, there were some people from SFI. SFI because Gaurav was there, and Gaurav had just a huge battalion. So there's this public meeting happening, and where Akbar Chaudhary was the president of JNU at that time. He comes up to stage and that said, we condemn this verdict and we stand in solidarity with them and we will fight for them and all this. And we were sitting there as queer people, and we felt like queer students of this campus, and felt, who are them? You are an elected student union and we are students, and we are queer, so it's also about us. So you should have, instead of othering and saying that we support them, which is how the initial queer politics began, as preached from the Vantage Point Students Union, was denoting and compartmentalizing as other. Right. they are standing there as if like they are in some ghetto. We'll go to that slum area that they stay there, and we would help them out. We'll distribute arms to them, and we would fight for them and get them whatever they want. Which was not what the case, and we felt like
you are not giving a voice. You are not given a voice. You are not given the space for
what and that is where for the first time. And no, I spoke. I spoke as in from the audience when the speakers had left, and the union was still sitting there, and they were asking, and Gaurav started speaking, and Gaurav was speaking about what happened. I could not stop myself, and I had to, for the first time, speak out and say something. I said, if you really mattered to you that the queer issues are important concerns, on the eve of that verdict, when the verdict came out, and when the situation, you should have understood if queer people are everywhere, in every part of the world, in every community, every group, then you should have actually focused on how you should have realized there would also be students in this campus who are queer. Right. As a students' union, you should have taken care of that, because while the verdict came out in the night, there were two undergrad students from School of Languages who were constantly on phone with me, who were feeling suicidal because verdict has come out, we are not out. What would happen? Would we be killed? And all these things, and they wanted to die. And I was talking with them till 4 in the morning. My problem was, if you really cared, and if GSK at that time really cared, why didn't they have, say, start a counseling cell? Why didn't they say we support? I can understand they could not reach out to all the queer students because it's difficult to identify. People do not want to get identified. But there were people like Gaurav Ghosh who was out, right? You could have talked to him. You could talk to Sumit De. If you felt Gaurav Ghosh was from a different political party than the elected student union, then you could have talked to Sumit De, who sympathizes with your political ideology. Right, he's also queer. You could have talked to them and try to understand what kind of fears and frights are being circulated within the community in this campus. Right, which was not happening. Which did not happen. What happened was you just compartmentalize as other. The moment you have just segregated and push them other, and you have not realized that this is what your intervention should have been. That how can I make, I don't know about the world outside, but how can I make this campus, because that is in my control, how can I make this campus at least little safe and little welcoming and supporting for the queer people who might be extremely frightened after the verdict. Which never came up to the idea. It's easy to speak loud, it's easy to throw jargons, right, and shout, which is I say, it's very fashionable these days to talk about queer rights, right, but really actually working.
So they were not working, they were just...
So that's what I said. This is what we felt disappointed as queer people. Because we went there as queer students. Like, although people did not know that we were sitting there, but Gaurav Ghosh was there, Sumit De was there, there were other 5 people along with me who had gone there and sat there. And we were just listening because we went there as a hope. With the hope that student union is an elected body, and we are students, so they are equally answerable to us, they are answerable to heterosexual students. Right. But what we end up listening is, we are going to support them. What we end up listening is just speeches, just rhetoric rather than any action, which was very disappointing. So it was after that point that we had a meeting in Dhanak, and we thought that probably, come in.
Are we doing it here?
What?
Poster thing?
Oh, that one line we need, nah?
No, but yeah, more things to say. Where? Here or in your room?
जहाँ भी करना है, giving an interview here, let's
Yeah.
go.
Networks.
Yeah.
Snowboarding.
Snowboarding, yeah.
So he's making the poster for the event, which I...
Okay. See you, Paritosha.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you come.
Yeah, so that's where we had a small group meeting, and we thought that probably if we continue believing in the student union, we are not going to reach anywhere. Because what the kind of politics, this is what I began saying, that it looks very different from outside, it looks very different from inside. So from inside what we saw was a complete we were just separated.
So they're not politicized because of the inaction
Yes.
of the
Yes.
the mainstream representative bodies.
Yes. We had no desire to actually do something like that. We never had an incentive to do. We wanted to be safe. We wanted to be a support system. We were more concerned about young kids who are coming from small towns and from different backgrounds. Because one good thing about Dhanak was also that, strangely, not just that we had queer students from small towns. We had queer students from Dalit backgrounds. A lot of queer students who were there. And there's like, so they had this overlapping marginality which they were facing, so much of inferiority complex. On the top of it, because of your sexuality, you have to again hide, completely understanding they can never go to their homes and tell to their parents. Like they come from lower economic backgrounds, they come from that marginality where they have ostracized and oppressed since their birth because of their caste identity, and now they are queer, they would be further ostracized. So we didn't want anything to happen, and so we wanted it to be safe. And then what we heard was this complete inaction and complete othering, which was being done by the student union, which was the point where I got very furious, and we had this meeting, and we decided that probably it's the high time that the campus really needs to know that there are queer students in this campus.
And how are your relation with JU as an institution? I mean, director and center and all. Is it difficult to work
See,
on queer?
Yes,
issues?
it is. It is difficult in the sense that initially when I proposed it, I was asked to change a bit, and I was because I was also told that better if you want to work on it, why don't you apply abroad? Yeah, like this, like because we haven't had an history. See, had I gone with the same topic in arts and aesthetics or English department, I would have been welcomed because people talk about these issues. In a department like mine, where we have always the only form of inequalities that we talked about were poverty and unemployment and all these issues, which are very relevant issues. Nobody, or gender, if we talked about women issues, never talked about queer issues. There was never a mention. Like it's like we are complete ignorance and disacknowledgement of the fact that thing even exists. So that's where one of my faculties even told me that how is my animal rights going after he saw me actively participating in this queer group. Yeah. So and I was like, and
So
strangely,
you react to that like no.
I didn't know what to react really. And strangely, because this fellow, in his student days, who was a student in this campus, was part of the left progressive politics that the campus knows about his legacy.
Really Manchu.
No, it doesn't very much.
And with students,
So I hate Manchu.
and with students, is it difficult to speak about queer issues? Because there's an impression, like you say, it's a mainstream to say we are feminist or we are queer on the whole, but in
It's
reality,
very difficult. It's very difficult because you're constantly told by faculty, even like faculty where you expect that there will be support, like wow, it's so abnormal. Or what Gaurav was told is a boyfriend also abnormal like you by a cultural coordinator. And things like that. We keep on hearing things like that. We keep on hearing things from the sections which claim themselves to progress. Like there's this lesbian girl in the group, and she likes having tattoos. So, and there's this faculty in her department, and she comes from one of those progressive, so-called progressive departments in this campus, and the lady faculty who said something to her, which I'm going to tell you right now, is also part of feminist faculty collective. So she claims that she is feminist. She says, "You have got tattoo here. How will you wear blouse when you get married?" And like, okay. How people say, like, a feminist claims somebody who claims herself as a feminist.
It's a subject we're speaking about.
Yes, talks about about a lesbian women like this, and there's another. The faculty said, "Do you see this another boy who's also queer in her department?" see him. He also sleeps with women. So he's come back to his to the fold. You can also try like that. So even the progressive spaces, which we call the certain departments in this campus, which is supposedly more vocal about queer rights per se, I'm not about other progressive because they're very depoliticized on a lot of other issues, end up making such statements.
And have you seen some change after the law, the 377 amendments? Have you seen change with relation with police or with the politics or something?
See,
because we were all very afraid after it.
But it is. I think it has been very positive. I think the verdict was necessary. But it was necessary because after the 2009 verdict, which came by Delhi High Court, until 2013, the queer movement lost its space. We thought we have achieved what we wanted to achieve. Where at the beginning itself, Section 377 directly impacts gay men rather than lesbian women.
Mm-hmm.
And what the movement was being run was through this upper class gays men or trans population. Right. So there was hardly lesbian voice. The only way you brought everybody together was saying that it's 377, it's for if as a community LGBT everybody has to come together and fight for it. We had that Delhi High Court verdict which said 377 is no more valid in Delhi, and we were happy and jubilant and celebratory to that extent that we forgot that removing 377 is not the ultimate agenda of the queer movement in India.
Mm-hmm. It gave a boost.
Right. So what 2013 verdict did was, it shook us from the slumber. It said, sorry, you were living in a mirage. You had to come back and you had to fight. So what has happened is, there's this friend of ours, Ankush, who is part of Dhana. He says very beautifully that while 2009 verdict was led to coming out, was the coming out of the movement. A lot of people took courage and came out of the closets. 2013 verdict is coming together of the movement. Where we actually came together and started voicing it out.
The consequences for some, because maybe in Delhi or in big city,
which is not that proud, but yes, in small towns, police still harass.
Consequences,
Yeah, even in Delhi there are a lot of consequences. People like even in cruise, like a lot of people who do not have access to internet, for the matter of fact, or say big such spaces like smartphones where you can have dating applications and you can find other men. A lot of people still go to cruising spaces coming from lower class backgrounds, lower middle class backgrounds, for whom that is the only space they can meet like-minded people. That's the only space they can find sex or find friends who can share their lives with. So for them it's difficult because now they know there are more chances that police will harass. Police will bully.
So police goes there because they know it's a dating place.
It's a dating place, and there are a lot of incidents I have heard from people where police have come up and said कि घर पे phone करें क्या, like we will call your parents and we'll tell them about, and did they ask for money from you in lieu of that. A lot of harassment takes place and we cannot voice out. The problem is because of the verdict now. Even if I'm gay and I've been harassed, I cannot, or somebody has tried to rape me, I cannot go and tell it to him. Right? Because I would be equally punishable because I'm gay. Right? So what should I do?
And how do you react to mainstream organization on campus that approach your organization in order to get the legitimacy of being gay friendly and queer friendly?
We don't find many organizations approaching us, but yes, many organizing, every time we organize something, we are sure in order to sound progressive and politically correct, they would come. So we have a certain bunch of audience reserved that is definitely going to be there.
And are you going to do Talk to Me this year also?
Not this time. That would have been,
And just to continue on the law 377, do you think it's invisible by some way, lesbian issue? Because in fact this law, it's only about men.
Yes.
Because it's not about
it's about
men, it's about
penetration.
penetration.
Yeah, which
So,
obviously.
I have the impression now when we speak about queer and LGBT right, like in 90% of the time we speak about men.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because we don't recognize women
But
sexualities.
377 that I personally see as a medium to mobilize the community. It's the standpoint, is the fight, because we needed to start somewhere, right? And there is a law like that existed in this country, which is detrimental to the fate of many people who belong to diverse sexualities. Then that on that core, we started mobilizing people to come together and fight. We know a larger battle is why. So when we fight against Section 377, it's not just Section 377 that we are fighting, but we are fighting towards sensitizing a lot of people on a lot of different issues. So when Kiss of Love happens and two women kiss, it should not be a thing. Or when I started reciting a poetry at Kiss of Love, there's this, and I started speaking that I come and speak on behalf of the queer group, where we talk about all forms of love and all this. The people started shouting from behind. There were this bunch of people who were from supposedly Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, who started interfering, and then I had to target my poems towards them. Like this is for you. This poem is for you.
So
yeah, it's. I think we have started talking, and that's a very big achievement. And probably over time we would reach a point where we would be able to.
But in JNU or in India?
We are beginning with JNU. We are trying to expand. We are trying to move out. We are trying to associate. That's why we are trying to associate with other student groups in different campuses in Delhi, because alone we cannot do anything. Even this campus, political groups which are right now from political organizations whose entire existence works on elections or electoral politics, would love for Dhanak to vanish. Right. What all is happening is everybody's trying to claim this is my issue. Now this is my issue. That is what is happening. And the biggest achievement, like, why should there be a group? We will talk about it. Right. And we had to, forgetful of the fact that we came out and spoke because of the inaction itself.
So you set a new agenda for them.
Yeah. So people started talking. So now, even if this elections, if you stand, there will be every agenda there will be queer rights, except AVP if they contest.
Yeah, of course.
Or feminists.
Yeah. There are people like, for instance, there was this one ABVP contestant once at GS Kutch election, and she was posed a question: what is your point of view on gay rights and all this? And she said, to support is different and to promote is different. We don't want to promote homosexuality in our society. This is what like,
to promote, like,
you support.
it's like
You support.
I touch it every touch it.
you can do it.
Support or not promote.
Yeah. So he's Nitendra is working in, he's a Master of Design student from Dhirubhai Institute in Gandhinagar.
We met him in front of SIS today.
Yeah. So he is working on, he's straight, and he's making a documentary on queer lives, the coming out experience and all that. And not coming out experience as this coming out of queer people out of their closet, but coming out of a straight person of his homophobia. Because one of his friends was bullied and he had to leave the campus, who was gay, and later he came to know that he was gay and he left the campus because of that. So for him, because he's now working on say a gay documentary, he's been saying, are you also gay? Oh, and he probably has pink shoes, so people say, oh, but wearing pink shoes make you turn.
And what about Jane? They all think that I am dating.
They all think because he keeps on moving around with me, he's dating me. Like I'm dating him or something.
And you also stay here, no? For sure.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because Caroline tries to work on the masculinities and the way men are also active in feminist and queer movement.
Yeah.
especially feminist movement.
Yeah. In fact, I'm looking because I was quite surprised after E4She campaign. I was like, wow, we're waiting for men to help women, so that's it. And so for that, I decided, and after some people who advised me to look at women involvement in feminist organization and how they changed. At the beginning, it was only women's organization, concept of sorority and all, to become mixed gender, and how you have to articulate masculinity and femininity, and sometimes how when you speak about masculinity is like totally in the patriarchal way. In fact, because you're like, oh, poor guy, it's very difficult for them too because they have to be masculine and all. And in fact, we don't speak about gender, we speak about natural, like it's natural and all. So I start to look at it, and it's very interesting the way that in the queer movement, when organizations speak about themselves as LGBT organization, 90% it's gay organization. When it's queer, it will be like mixed. And after you have a lot of gay organization, and like for 10 gay organization, you have like 1.5 lesbian organization.
Yeah, true.
And the way how it's articulated with feminism and or not, and it's very
this is what one of my classmates once told me in here, JNU, that the way the queer movement is working, it will be easy for gay rights to be achieved and not lesbian rights.
Because there is this, I have the impression there is this policy in India, but not only in India, that women don't have sexualities. Because sexuality is linked to men. So because it's the idea of penetration and all, so you cannot be lesbian because you don't have a sexuality. If you have a sexuality, you have this men's side, I would say, or something. So it's for that, even for the law 377 or the law about rape, it's only women who can be raped, not men. And this
but the Justice Verma recommendation which came out after 2012.
I read it, it was amazing.
It was not implemented though completely, but
of course.
where they for the first time talked about that victim can be either man or a woman.
Of course.
Right. So this is the first time that they acknowledge that man can also be a victim.
The first time someone speak like openly about LGBT, about sexuality.
Because when Justice Verma recommendation committee was set up, they came in contact with a lot of queer activists, and they were talking to them, and there was a lot of viewpoints coming in. So they added up this also within their understanding, and luckily till then Supreme Court verdict was not out. So they did not have political.
Took only the worst of the.
So now they have this right now, because we have a right-wing conservative government. So a lot of political pressure also.
Have you thought about bringing your activism, your queer activism, to another level, like doing in mainstream politics, or to commit more into a student organization? Or it was never
There
like
were discussion. If I were to tell you within the group that we have been really disappointed with the way GS Cash is being used, in the sense that it's rather than being a political in sense of fighting for the gender rights, it has become very organizational politics, which is not very effective in the long run. So there were also suggestions that why can't, because Dhanak does not belong to any political party. It has its people from people who have affiliations or sympathizers of different political organizations coming together. Right. So why can't Dhanak have a candidate in the GS election? Right. There was this suggestion, and then in the initial meetings when we were talking about it, there was also a point that even if one thing is we are not such a group. And not everybody can come out and participate. Even if you're fighting for election, you need to have a manpower. You need to have a strong base campaign team. How to reach to as maximum as possible. How to write pamphlets and distribute them. Because we find extremely difficult even to organize a small event. Right? Because we need to garner a lot of support. We need to garner lots of funds. We do not have any
patronized by some other
student union. There are people who are trying to patronize you, trying to come and take over. So how do you manage that? So even if we decide to come out and contest in elections, we know there will be a lot of people who would support us, because we are not belonging to any political organization, and have somehow, somewhere, little, we have tried working for queer rights
Yeah.
or gender rights, we'd like to say.
I really like your.
Last day you see that phone, I will just go to it from the window. So
Yes.
why didn't you?
Yeah, so initially what we thought was, even if we contest as a group, we would have a women representative. So probably a lesbian women contest. Because what we felt was, and there was a point of view from the group that women and lesbian, that representation would talk about dual marginality, and the voice needs to be spoken out. And even if we pushed out a queer man to contest, probably he would not understand women's body that much as a women would understand. And right now, at the level of social movement that we are in India, we need to push through women's movement alongside queer movement. We cannot look at it separately and just do it. There's also a point of view in the group that we could have a queer man, because moment we were assigning that only women can understand, we were also being judgmental and saying a queer man won't be able to understand. We are ourselves being prejudiced. So that we had mixed feelings, and this time also we were thinking of sending one contestant, and we are sure we might not win, but yeah.
But at least use that platform
to raise a voice, even that GBM, that election debate which takes place. But at least we can talk. At least instead of personal slandering and throwing mudslinging over each other, there would somebody who would be talking about, please do this and do this in this way. You do this like without having any other agenda. We wanted, but then we do not have people. Because even if, say, I contest from group, from Dhanak, because there will not be many people, we do not have many faces who can come out and contest, because you will have to show your face and people will know about you, and not many are ready for it. So there are very few that we can push. So if I contest, or if say somebody else contests, it would be very difficult for us to do that campaign. We do not have that kind of power and resources.
So it's a problem of having teams of people campaigning everywhere, and
the kind of campaigning which happens. There are girls team, there are boys team, then they go to special communities, go to Muslims separately, go to Hindus separately, and go to Christians separately, and tell them that we are going to fight for you and fight for you and fight for you, and most of their things would clash and contradict each other. But they garner votes like this. We cannot do this. Probably we can just go on the stage and speak out and just make a token representation.
But does it really matter if you don't want to win?
No,
you don't want
matter.
to win, so
it doesn't matter. But then we at least want that the message, even if we do not win, and we do not, even we campaign to the fullest, we know half of the campus would not vote for us. Would not vote for us, because especially men would not vote for us. Their masculinity is under threat the moment they think about voting for us. So,
but the ballot is secret.
I don't care, secretly I can vote.
That will be brilliant.
Oh, that boy's cute.
I vote for you.
Oh god, yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, but then even if we contest, and if it's token contestation, we would want the message that we are showing reaches to the maximum people, right? Which would not be possible, because we would not be able to reach out to people. It would have what it would end up becoming is that we have somebody who's speaking from the podium on the platform, the GSKH debate, where only a handful of political activists come and listen. Because if people really voted on what they heard in the election debate, half the people who have won would not have won. Yeah, people win because of their organization. People win because they have power to and reach out to people. Right. Also because they work. I'm not demeaning that they do not work. They work, and they're very passionate about their work. But then just having the passion to work and just being very political about your and passionate about your politics is not enough.
And what about being more closely associated to an organization like, I don't know, SFI, because they understand better?
No, we don't want to do this because it would be very detrimental and people would not stop taking us seriously. Then what would happen is, the way it happened and way the Chinese politics interiorly you have closely examined it works is, we half the times we do not talk about issues, all we talk about is slanders. All we hear about is slanders. So what would happen is, so even if I am going and speaking and probably I have lots of close friends in SFI. Okay, so people would then stamp it as saying, oh, it's an SFI subgroup or a brainchild. And so what ISA would say, oh, we don't believe in them and believe in that queer politics because they're part of that organization. Similarly, DSF would say that, right? Or if we associate with ISA, other political parties would say that, which we do not want. What we want is, and what we did when we did the Rainbow Walk, which was that after that vandalization of the rainbow tree, we had that huge procession in this campus, where we painted the campus rainbow at different places. For the first time, what we saw was, regardless of a political affiliation, everybody was there except AVP. Everybody was there. Everybody was there. And one more positive thing that we saw in last year's Pride, the Dalit Queer Pride which took place, for the first time, JNU's each and every political party was there with their activists walking in the Pride Parade. And that was a moment, because that we saw as an achievement, because people have finally started taking queer voices seriously, and that's an achievement. Like, even for namesake, even for the sake of hypocrisy, their presence would mean a lot, because later on they would say we are present there and we support this. Probably a lot of their comrades, a lot of these people who have prejudices or have negative viewpoints about homosexuality will get educated. A message will reach. That's what we want.
And how do you think you will expand this level of awareness that is now in a bubble to a broader level?
What we are trying to do, and this is what we are trying to associate with other groups, other organizations are working outside, and what we are trying to also do is not just restrict ourselves to queer politics. So we know our basic agenda is what, right? But that does not mean that queer rights are in isolation with, say, Dalit rights. Because as I previously mentioned, a lot of our queer members are also Dalits, also covered from impoverished households. So if I'm fighting for queer rights, if I get them sanctioned, if I'm luckily we are able to achieve the rights of being gay in this country, they would still be oppressed because they are Dalit. They would still be oppressed and be living a life of misery because they are poor. So can I just look at this? Yes. So what as a group we try to look at is this intersections. And our focus is majorly on these intersections, and what we are trying to push through is, we will fight with these intersections together. So we will also go for a protest on caste issues, and mention that I'm a queer and I'm also a Dalit. So it's equally a issue for me. We'll also go, and there will be if there is a religious minority issue, there are Muslim queer youth, and so we are trying to make our presence more visible.
And do you think that the way you express your presence, the way you protest, is different from the way it is done by other organizations?
I think it is. I think it is because one thing, because we do not push through people just for votes, right? So what we are trying to we have a message for you, and we are trying to tell you. We try to use, let's say, poetry recitals, or we do theaters, and we do admission assistance desks where we are distributing pamphlets instead of holding people. Oh, we will take you and do admission, and please vote for us next time. We will also give you hostel. We are not doing this. What we are trying to do is, this time what we did was admission assistance desk, where we sat there with GF Sketch, and we were sitting with a rainbow flag. So anybody who's coming from different city and had who's queer and remotely seen anything Rainbow or associated about queer rights on television would see it and might not come to us directly at that point of time because it's too much of a crowded space, right? But we are distributing pamphlets where there are numbers, where there are email addresses. You can secretly contact us.
So people did.
Yes, people did. There's this one
okay.
person, I was sitting at the desk and there's one person probably came from West Bengal, some university, and he came up and he opened up the pamphlet and he said, I feel so relieved reading this. And later on he came out to one of our members, queer. We knew and we could see that fellow is queer, and he would not come. So we were going there and at least giving the pamphlet to them. Right. Because I know they would not have the courage to come up to us. Because there are so much of eyes watching them. Right. But we can go up to them and say, and we will have to reach out. Which they would not do. Which other political parties would not do.
This is really, and of course the colors and the flag and tree painting.
And then we are doing this on the staircase and then
do you think in the, for example,
Like
in
20 minutes?
Hindu Masaba, that
oh,
protest,
you saw that so fascinating it was.
so
Inside the police station,
fascinating.
you're dancing. You're dancing and
dancing in
singing,
from the police.
and you're like trying to involve police.
Yes. It was so brilliant, and I really thought it was a new, like.
And there were a lot of
new way.
political organization people who had problems with that. What are these people doing?
But then they were like, they could not take a lead because it was so spontaneous and in a way so elaborated.
Yeah.
And that they could not
They could not hijack it.
They could not hijack it. Exactly. In the we were talking about what was it?
The Valentine's Day protest,
Ah.
which took place. It was very beautiful. That was the best protest I've ever attended. Where we are dancing inside the police station, the policemen are surrounded you, and you do not care, and you're just dancing and singing and celebrating.
Oh, yeah. It was amazing.
When it was?
On 14th of Feb, when the Hindu Mahasabha came up with this announcement that they would get every couple they see married. They'll get them married. So people started posting. So if there are two men holding each other's hands, would you get them married too? If there are two women holding hands, would you get them married too? So we went there and we protested, and we were detained by the police. And inside the police station, we were sloganeering, we were dancing, and we were having mock wedding ceremonies and all that.
And do you think that it was one of the first time that irony was used as a political tool?
Maybe, I'm not sure. I cannot comment, but yes, first time when I participated in something where irony was used for political tool.
Because I think that this is what is really lacking in a lot of mainstream kind of student activism. Is the bringing a new language.
Yeah.
That is everything is so stereotyped. It's the same protest.
And you know that yes, and they've rehearsed. If you go to any march that they do, any protest march they do in this campus, after this slogan is going to come. And they've rehearsed. It's like they've by-hearted slogans, and they just like ho Chi Minh, we shall fight, we shall win. The next slogan will be Rosa Clara Zetkin, we shall fight, we shall win. And then next, so it's all continuation. They've just rehearsed their slogans. There's nothing new coming out. You know what is going to what they're going to say, and people are just saying. They're just doing lip service. And I think so. This is why a lot of students have lost interest, because they feel that it's just lip service. It's this huge drama which is happening, which is like, for instance, the hunger strikes have become an annual event.
Though they were known last year, there were no hunger strikes.
There was.
The one in January, but last year there were no hunger strike. And no, actually, we said this is very strange.
There's no hunger strike.
And what was the Sandeep
Saurabh.
Sandeep Saurabh was telling me, don't worry, by the end by the end of your field work, I promise you,
Hunger strike.
we will gift you a hunger strike. I'm like, yes, and okay. And then I came back, and on, it was maybe the third day of the hunger strike. I said, see, I told you.
So this is like, it's become a tokenist approach.
Really funny. Yeah, where they put their face, that the one that were going to contest, they put that at the ticket reflection.
So we should see, even if there's, we had this queer film festival last weekend, right?
Yeah.
And you could see people who are likely to contest from different political organizations, but all there. They will be pushed forth. So for instance, the DSF's candidate, which is going to be announced, was the one who spoke on the behalf of DSF in that at the end of that march that we ended up in Gangadhava.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, or similarly, this is what was happening.
Because it's so codified. This is why.
So we have to be there, because this is what gender thing is happening and gender elections are happening, and we have to look that we are gender sensitive and progressive. So we have to be there. If we are not present there, then the old rhetoric will start, which Isa started. Sathi, aap kahan the Sathi? Where were you, Sathi, when we were doing this?
This is the rhetoric, the Chandrasekhar rhetoric. Where were you?
When we were doing this, where were you? You must be enjoying and rejoicing in a closed room, but we were fighting on the streets. Where were you? So which is like, so there, therefore it's like, yes ma'am, present sir, present ma'am, attendance happening in the classroom. It's like that.